A recent study by the Lancet revealed alarming statistics. 50% of Indian adults, or 1 in 2, are physically unfit. In fact, we Indians have seen a dramatic rise in physical inactivity from 22.4% in the year 2000 to 45.4% in 2022, with as much as 60% of our population estimated to become unfit by 2030. Now, these numbers are not surprising and align with India's obesity crisis, where 7 out of 10 people are overweight, making India one of the top 3 obese nations. The obesity rate amongst women has surged from 1.2% in 1990 to 9.8% in 2022, and for men from 0.5% to 5.4% in the same period. Unhealthy food habits are a major contributor, with 38% of Indians eating poorly and only 28% consuming all 5 recommended food groups: fruits and vegetables, protein, carb, dairy, and fats and sugars. Among students, 51% regularly consume high-fat foods and 31% consume high-sugar foods. This lack of physical activity and obesity is linked to increased risks of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, osteoporosis, dementia, and even cancer. Today, we have with us 2 leading experts, Dr. Lakdawala and Dr. Neeta Deshpande, to discuss the risks India faces due to obesity and the lack of physical activity. We'll cover the importance of physical activity, the right diet and suitable exercises, and delve into the hottest topic in weight loss drugs. Drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro and Zepbound are making waves, with sales expected to hit $100 billion by 2030 globally. Key questions, however, remain. Who should use them? For how long? And are they safe? All this and more in the next 30 minutes. Welcome to the show. Well, Dr. Mufi, Dr. Deshpande, thank you very much for joining in. Well, Dr. Mufi, I'm going to start with you. The Lancet study says that 50% of Indian adults are unfit and not physically active. Why do you think that is the case?
Hi, Ekta. Thank you for welcoming on the show. I think there are 2 or 3 reasons mainly. One, I would say, is urbanization and lifestyle. So urbanization, there was a 2023 study which actually showed that that's led to around 40% increase in lack of time for physical activities, only because people have adopted to motorization as transports, use lifts instead of climbing, and various other things. The next thing is in terms of cultural acceptances. So we as Indians don't believe, and there's a lack of mental awareness that exercise is regularly needed. And a 2022 study actually showed that 40% of Indians don't believe that exercise is required for sustained a healthy lifestyle. And finally, there was a 2023 study that showed high stress and long working hours. So what individuals actually said is that 45% of Indians quoted that as a reason for lack of time to exercise for having a healthier body. There are 2 other factors. One is technology. A 2022 study said that there's a 150% increase in screen time. Tablets, computers, phones, people are addicted to their Insta profiles or their Facebook, Twitter, whichever handle. All right, and people don't have time to physically exercise. And then diet, like you correctly said, Ekta. There has been a 40% increase in processed food diets that Indians have consumed over the last 10 years or so. And that, including the added predisposition to having sugar. We have so many festivals and we are so addicted to sugar that that's a deadly cocktail that the Indians can ill afford. And that's why you are seeing not only one pandemic, which I believe we have already reached. We are the number 3rd country in the world to probably have obesity, but we are number 2 in terms of diabetes. And diabetes is a bigger problem than obesity alone, because that's taking lives, affecting our loss in man hours and affecting overall growth in India.
Okay, absolutely. Well, we are one of the highest sugar consumers in the world as well, so it completely corroborates. Dr. Deshpande, thank you very much for joining in. Well, statistics say that, these inactivity levels can probably reach 55% by 2030. What do we now need to actively change in our lifestyle to help battle this?
Right. So thank you for having me here. The first and foremost thing that we need to do is create awareness that physical activity matters, whether you are lean, whether you are obese, or if you're just centrally obese. The reason being that being slim does not mean you're physically fit, and you're setting yourself up for obesity later on. So physical activity can be preventive for obesity. So that awareness has to be created. The second thing that needs to be done is that more and more people need to understand that physical activity doesn't just mean going to the gym or joining the Zumba class. So, physical activity is everything that you do during the course of a day where you move, basically, rather than just sit. Just now, we heard that excessive mechanization, mobile phones, elevators for that matter. So, everything that you do to just move is physical activity. This awareness has to come into the consciousness of the public. The other thing is that policymakers also need to realize that you need spaces to walk. Uh, all the urban jungles that you have. So, people, one is time and one is spaces. So, all these things need attention if you need to holistically look at increasing physical activity. And the third thing that one can do is that, you take up activities that you actually enjoy. It could be dance, it could be Zumba, it could be Pilates, it could be anything that you enjoy doing because you're more likely to stick to it.
But Dr. Deshpande, this regular physical activity has actually been linked to reduction in a lot of diseases. Cancers by 8 to 28%, heart disease and stroke by 19%, diabetes by 17%, and dementia by 28 to 32%. Is that how critical physical activity is?
Yes. So physical activity is basically meant for fitness in all ways. So your metabolism is very, very responsive to physical activity. So when you're physically active, your insulin works better, the rest of your metabolism works better, your muscles become stronger. When you increase your muscle mass, you are going to stave off diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. So, physical activity is actually a miracle drug, if you ask me. And each and every one, slim, not slim, obese, non obese, everyone needs to do. So, it's very, very important to be physically active to stave off all diseases and to treat so many diseases. So, physical activity is a part of life, it's a way of life. It's not something that one should actually decide to do. It should be a part of life.
Okay. All right. Dr. Mufi, give us a recommendation on what is ideal physical activity then for all ages. If you could break it up for us age-wise. For example, how much and what type of exercise does one need regularly? Let's start with, say, children, go up to teens, young adults 35 to 50 years, and then say 50 years plus, and then 60 plus and 70 plus.
So Ekta, I'll give you the split depending on the age groups. Okay, this is WHO recommendations. Firstly, children between 5 to 12 years of age, they need at least 1 hour of physical activity a day, and mainly outdoor. So you can break it up into aerobic exercises like swimming, cycling, running, or muscle building exercises like gymnastics and various other things. And then bone building exercise like jumping or running, all right? Because the kids at that age need it. Then we go into the age span between 13 to 17, or the adolescent. Here again, they need a minimum of 60 minutes per day. Again, usually outdoors, so your aerobic exercises include the running, the cycling, and the swimming. The muscle building exercises can become your body weight, like push-ups and sit-ups and resistant bands. And your bone building exercises continue to be jumping and running. Then you come into the main age group, which is the working age group, which is between 18 to, let's say, 34 years of age. And that's where you split it up, right? You say that you need at least a minimum of 150 minutes to 300 minutes of moderate exercise, or 75 minutes to 150 minutes of high intensity activity. Now, in terms of aerobic exercises, you rather jog than run, because you will get older, your knees will start getting affected, and then you continue with swimming and waterborne exercises, which don't affect your knees that much. Then you come to strength building exercises. So there your resistance training, lightweight training all comes in. And eventually muscle building exercises, which again need to be done in terms of, let's say, rowing and various other things. Then you come to the age group between, let's say, 35 years to 50 years of age. Here again, you need at least 150 minutes to 300 minutes of moderate degree exercise or 75 minutes of high intensity training. What you need to do is you need to add in at least 2 days of muscle building exercise in this age group, because that's when your muscles start slowing down, your metabolic rate starts slowing down. And that's why you need basic exercise like maybe brisk walking rather than jogging out over here, which gives you the same intensity. And in terms of poise and flexibility, that's when yoga kicks in, Pilates kicks in, and various other things kick in. After 50, when you're, especially for postmenopausal women, and that's the big problem in India, we must understand that you need a minimum of at least around, you can say, 75 minutes across, or 100 minutes, you can say, across a week. Not on a daily basis. Okay. So when you do that across a week and 2 days of at least concentration on your muscles, you need aerobic exercises here. Just walking or water walking, aerobic walking can help you. Then you need flexibility. So your Tai Chi or yoga really helps you. And then in terms of weight, please don't go out and do really heavy weights. Just your body weight or light weight would really help you to especially prevent postmenopausal muscle loss and bone loss. Okay. Yeah, that can happen. And eventually above 60, again, you need just that 100 minutes per week, and moreover, two days of muscle training. What they need to do is they need to get up off their bed. They need to mobilize, go get down the stairs. If that's not possible and you can't manage it, go to the grocery, pick up your bag and go out. Small exercises. You don't need to jump, run or anything of that sort, but flexibility. So yoga, Tai Chi, all these things really help.
How important is weight training? Because, some cardiologists have also linked it to probably being one of the most important things for good health in the long term. Is that the case? And weight training, if you could tell us, is it applicable across ages?
Like I said, in the younger age group, muscle building is very vital, and bone building at least up till the time of adolescence. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum, the older people. It's very, very vital that you add in some form of physical activity, especially muscle, because what studies across the board, medical studies have shown is that muscle loss will happen, therefore you need physical activity to build up that muscle. Bone loss will happen if you don't exercise, and eventually mental health improves because it generates a hormone in the brain which actually makes you feel good. So for mental as well as physical health, I think it's very vital that you do some form of muscle building exercise after the age of 50.
Okay, especially after the age of 50.
Either very young, between 5 to 17, or after the age of 50.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a lot more questions. So Dr. Deshpande as well as Dr. Mufi, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, let's start talking about one of the key problems for obesity in India, which is basically our diet. Dr. Deshpande, the crux of our problem is probably our diet. Statistics show that 51% of students eat junk food, 38% of adult Indians eat poorly. So what is wrong with our diet to that extent? Is it the lack of protein? Is it too much carbohydrates? Or is it the incremental amount of junk food that our diet has, turned towards in the past couple of years?
Right. So yes, you're very right. The problem is calorie excess because of abundance of food. The other problem is carbohydrate excess. And the third is protein deficiency. So all these three put together are a recipe for disaster, because you are increasing your calories, which is going to make you fat and obese, and you are increasing your carbohydrate intake with all the junk food that is there, and you're also increasing your fat content. And all of this is ultimately going to lead to a lot of insulin resistance, fatty liver, and this is inviting all the metabolic diseases that are associated with obesity. So junk food is very high on processing, and processing is really bad because it can cause a lot of what we call oxidative damage.
What is a good source of vegetarian protein according to you, Dr. Deshpande, and how much protein should one consume?
Yeah, so typically, if you're really very active, the formula is that you should get 1 gram per kg of your body weight. But if you're not very physically active, if you're much older, you can go to 0.8 grams per kg body weight. If you talk about vegetarian sources, there is no complete protein. So you will have to eat multiple sources of protein because all the amino acids are not contained in any single food. So vegetarian protein is basically not a complete protein. So you'll have to make a mix and match of different things like cereals, sprouts, maybe paneer, dairy, basically. So mushrooms. So these are all the ways that you can get proteins, but not one of them is a complete protein. So one has to be very vigilant. It's not a way, you have to be really careful where your protein is coming from, and maybe meet up with a dietitian to actually find out where the protein is coming from in your food. So it's not very easy to get all the protein that you need from vegetarian sources. But mushrooms, dairy, all these are very few sources are there of protein. Sprouts do have protein, but they also have a lot of carbs, which people don't understand. Everyone thinks that sprouts is full of proteins. It has protein, but it also has a lot of carbs. And ultimately, if you had to get all your protein from the natural vegetarian sources, your calorie count is going to increase exponentially. So,
Okay.
so that is what you have to be careful about.
Would you recommend weight loss surgeries, or is lifestyle enough to probably reduce the weight? How does it work when a person is obese?
So there are very, very specific criteria for weight loss surgeries. And by weight loss surgeries, I don't mean cosmetic surgeries like liposuction, tummy tucks. I mean bariatric surgeries or metabolic surgeries. So once your BMI is above 37.5 and you're Indian, then there is a recommendation that you could consider surgery. If your BMI is above 32.5 and you've got diabetes, which is worsening, you've got kidney failure, which is coming up because of diabetes, or sleep apnea, or your hypertension gets much worse, you're not getting control, you've taken one drug after the other and still not getting control, then you should consider surgery. But otherwise, bariatric surgery should be remained and recommended only to those people who've tried everything else, multiple diets and exercise and failed it, or some of the newer drugs which are available, unless you're above a BMI of, let's say, 50, because then nothing else is going to work. And you rather get the life-saving surgery than go down a path of trying various options and getting much worse with disease.
Okay, all right. What are the risks to these weight loss surgeries? Because you hear, stray complications of weight loss or bariatric surgeries. You hear of fatalities as well.
So any surgery is accompanied with a risk, right? It depends on what risk it is. Today, in best of centers across the world, bariatric surgery comes with a less than 0.1% risk. That is associated with childbirth, that is associated with hernia, hysterectomies, gallbladders. And remember, this is a risk population group of people with hypertension, sleep apnea, diabetes. You throw everything into one box, and the only Ramban Shastra, as I call it, to treat all these diseases probably is bariatric surgery.
It's probably bariatric. Okay, all right. Well, Dr. Deshpande, the new alternative which has come out for weight loss is basically the weight loss drug, semaglutide tablets by Novo Nordisk. The oral form is available in India. How helpful is it when it comes to weight loss? How revolutionary is it to treat obesity?
Yeah. So the oral semaglutide is revolutionary in the sense that a peptide molecule has been put in the form of a pill, and this is the first time ever any peptide has come in a pill. As far as oral semaglutide is concerned, the dose that is available now the world over is actually meant to treat diabetes, and it does cause weight loss, but not the amount of weight loss that would accrue from the anti-obesity dose of semaglutide, which is injectable. So Wegovy is the drug that is actually licensed for use even in India, but not available for obesity. So you need higher doses of the same GLP-1 agonist for weight loss than for anti-diabetes effects. So yes, it does cause weight loss. And at the moment, it is licensed for use in India, the oral one only for diabetes.
Okay, all right. But what are the side effects of these weight loss drugs, Dr. Deshpande? You know, they've been linked to a rare eye condition which can probably cause vision loss. There is a debate on mental health implications of it as well, and whether it, actually helps in terms of dementia, and whether it, causes suicidal tendencies as well. So the debate is really out there on terms of the side effects of weight loss drugs. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so the short-term weight loss, the short-term side effects that are there, well, yes, everyone knows them, it's accepted. They are gastrointestinal, and that actually is expected. However, the other things that you talk about, the rare eye condition, the suicidal tendencies, the depression, or whatever it is, all of these are few and far between. And any drug that comes into the market is well researched. Nowadays, we have huge numbers of patients who have actually taken the drug. There are huge clinical trials. So when a drug is approved by the regulatory bodies, it means that the risk benefit ratio has been calculated, which means to say that the benefits far outweigh the risks of these rare conditions for which there is a warning, we know about it, and we are vigilant about it. So as such, I would not preclude the use of these drugs just based on these small and rare side effects. The benefits that are there to the population are far more than these.
Okay, all right. Who do you then, Dr. Deshpande, recommend it to, and what happens when you stop using those drugs? Do you put the weight back on?
Yes. So to answer your second question first, whenever you stop taking any drug, whether it's diabetes, blood pressure, or it is weight loss, if you stop taking the drug, it's not going to act, and that's very, very obvious. Having said that, once a person starts taking this drug, today there is no recommendation of when to stop it. So for all practical purposes, we just say that it has to be taken long term. But once a person gets lighter, we hope and expect that that person starts to do more physical activity. And there could be a way in the future where we could start actually de-prescribing or de-escalating at least the doses of these particular drugs. But as of now, they have to be taken long term for the effect to last.
Okay, all right. And lastly, Dr. Mufi, weight loss drugs, do you think that it'll replace the weight loss surgery market?
A lot of people tell me, have your surgery numbers gone down? Actually, frankly speaking, they've actually gone up, contrary, if at all, or maintained the same level rather than going down. Because what the drugs have done has got obesity onto the talking platforms. Today, sitting in the newsroom, we are talking about obesity. It's brought obesity out as a disease, which was hitherto hidden, and people spoke only quietly in social circles and sniggered at someone who was obese. But today, people are realizing anybody who loses even 10% of their total body weight, or 15%, these drugs promise between 15 to 20% of total body weight loss, knows the benefits that they get. Let's say whatever happens, let's say a side effect, or they can't afford the drug, or they stop it for some reason, and that weight rebounds, they realize the importance of weight loss and what they could do when they had lost all that weight. And that's brought people with obesity out onto the platform and saying, now we want to look for an option. We no longer want to run away from this question. So I think it's done a good thing for us.
Okay, all right, Dr. Mufi as well as Dr. Deshpande. It's been a conversation which I think needs many questions more, but we've completely run out of time. Thank you very much for joining in and speaking to us on the Medicine Box. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.